You are a wise woman. That is a great piece of advice today. Don't be afraid to ask the question. I'm telling you, they hear everything. They get all kinds of questions. You know, the people at your cancer center, your oncologist, ask the question. And if they don't know, ask another person.
Yeah.
That's great advice, Grace.
Yes. And I tell
Mhm.
everybody, I tell everybody, I said, this is what I did. So make sure,
Mhm.
you seek information. We're not all on the same page as regards insurance companies, but I'm sure that you'll be covered somewhat, but just ask. And that
Mhm.
information that's passed on really, really has helped a lot of people, to at least get by, because
Yeah.
transportation,
Good for you.
it
Yeah.
eats into your pockets, you know it eats into your
It
pockets.
does. And there's some really great organizations too that help defray the cost
Mhm,
of cancer care. And
mhm,
that's another good one to ask for. You know, I do want to circle back to the options because one that I didn't mention that I have learned about since my advocacy began is
mhm,
that when a surgeon works with the scaffold of your chest or your body, if they're using deep flap, the scaffold is the chest wall. So now flat closure should also be an option for reconstruction because it is reconstructing the breast wall. So women who don't want to choose to have implant or autologous reconstruction and would rather remain flat
mhm.
and have aesthetic flat closure, that is also an option. And I would encourage them, if they decide to do that, there is an organization, you know, that is very helpful in giving information about this. But also, I think from my perspective, on the Deep Sea Foundation YouTube channel, there is a YouTube video that is specifically, I interview two surgeons about questions that you should ask if you are going to have aesthetic flat closure. So I wanted to throw that in the mix there before I forgot about it.
Fantastic. Even your YouTube channel links definitely will be on in my show notes, and people will be able to watch those very insightful videos regarding this.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
oh, no
We like
problem
to say we're
at
open
all.
24/7.
Yes, we are, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. They can watch those videos anytime.
hmm hmm cancer doesn't sleep and information is necessary. But the most important thing, as I say, is always taking action when you have that
Yeah.
information. You know, that is
Yeah.
it. So, Terri, thank you so much
Yeah.
for this. What would you say are the biggest obstacles for women or men who are facing a breast cancer diagnosis? What are the biggest obstacles would you say for anyone?
You know, yeah. For men and women that are diagnosed, I think first and foremost, Grace, it's understanding what type of breast cancer you have. That doesn't mean you have to become an expert, but what happens is, you know, you find the cancer, it's either excised through, a biopsy, mammogram, imaging, whatever. Once they find out what the type of breast cancer is, it's like you become this unintended expert on breast cancer biology.
I know.
So I think that's, to me, that's one of the biggest challenges is absorbing all that information and really trying to understand it and work through it. The other one too is exactly what my treatment and surgical options are going to be. It might not be just one answer. You know, you might have choices. Many times it's kind of already laid out for you based on your tumor biology, and what kind of cancer you have. But sometimes you have options and decisions to make about, what type of treatment and what type of surgery you might want to have. I think another challenge too is the emotional and mental challenge of how is this going to affect my day-to-day living? How is my lifestyle going to change? I think that weighs heavily a lot on a breast cancer, someone who's newly diagnosed with breast cancer. And I just encourage you, you gave the best advice a little bit ago. Ask for help. Ask for help and ask questions. This is not something that you can do alone. There are women who are single, who have no family at home, who might have surgery, who might be in treatment. There are nursing services that you can call to come in and at least check on you. If you have a neighbor knocking on your door, employ their help as long as you know that they're going to be there to help you. You don't want to be anyone's token cancer patient, but when people offer their help, they genuinely want to do something, and you can be honest with them. Say, I'm not taking any visitors. I'm so grateful that you came to my door. The best thing you can do for me right now, get me a gift card to, DoorDash or a meal train. Get me a gift certificate to a house cleaning service. Offer to take my kids to soccer. Would you mind taking my dog on a walk when I'm really feeling bad? If somebody offers help, accept it graciously and be honest with them too about what your physical, mental, and everything, your limitations are when you talk to them. They'll appreciate it, I think.
Just be honest, just be honest and because it's actually the best thing for mental health. Somebody has to listen. If
Yes.
one is in that space where you feel as if you're in an abyss and nobody can get you out, but when you can open up and say, oh, this is happening to me, I'm not the only one it has happened to, and I'm sure there's light at the end of the tunnel so far as someone will listen to me. I think that proves to be something very, very positive and impactful. Yeah, you're so right. And
I
those
think so too. I
they
think so.
they sound so little, but they're a lot to patients, like us. I mean, they're a lot.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. I remember, the day when a friend of mine came over and she just sat and listened to me. And I felt so uplifted after she left, just for her to sit there and listen to me,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. Same.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on as you know about racial inequities and disparities and all this.
Mhm.
Um, what are your thoughts on this in healthcare, and especially do they exist in the breast reconstruction domain? Do you think?
I do think they exist, Grace. And I'm glad the conversation is coming to the forefront more these days. We've got to discuss it. And just because we're discussing it doesn't mean that we're good at it and we are not biased and that we're not, none of us were born with any kind of prejudice or bias. None of us were. But as we grow, as we listen to the world, I will just say the world because that encompasses so much.
Yes.
People develop implicit biases, and that can come in the form of the color of your skin, what weight you are, what your face looks like, how you present yourself to someone, an accent that you might have. implicit biases come in so many forms, Grace.
Mhm.
And in the breast reconstruction and breast cancer world, it just shouldn't happen. It just shouldn't happen. It's that simple. So how do we overcome that? How do we continue the discussion and try to understand what's going on? Educate. We educate each other about what we're truly feeling, what our frustrations are. A small example in your world for women of color. When you go to a lot of breast reconstruction sites, you don't see a lot of pictures of women of color for pictures of before and after photos. I don't know why that is. I don't have an answer to that, so I'll just be honest about that. But here's the thing about that. If you're a woman who has darker skin tones, olive undertones, cocoa undertones, you're going to develop keloids. You have a higher risk of developing keloid scars more than other patients. And that is a discussion you should be having with your surgeon about scar placement. I don't know how many women know to ask that question. And that's one very small example. There's access to healthcare too that has become an issue for many women and men, depending where they live and where they can go for help. There's also cultural differences where there are communities that they just don't speak about breast cancer or breast reconstruction. It hasn't been something that historically and has comfortably been discussed in different communities. And I think we have to be very forward facing about anything we can do to encourage this and to make sure that all women and men who are going through treatment have what I call a shared decision-making conversation with their surgeon. So that, that you and I talked before we did this podcast a couple of weeks ago about SDG 3, which is good health and well-being. That is a broad-ranging topic that includes health literacy, that includes shared decision-making, that includes personalized. I know this automatically. So the work that you're doing, Grace, hopefully the work of the foundation and so many other wonderful advocates that I meet, that's what we need to keep marching forward with to try to minimize health disparities through education.
Yes.
Building trust.
Absolutely. Through, as you rightly said, through education, through health communication. We have to keep being in their faces and talking and letting people know that this is what it is, you know. You mentioned SDG 3. It's the nucleus. Nothing happens without good health. Nothing,
No.
nothing. So that is that is the nucleus of society, and that's what we have to keep talking about. So as regards health inequities and racial disparities, we won't relent. We'll continue to talk about it, and thank God it's on the agenda now. Thank God for that.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm so glad people are talking about it. And, when I say the word health literacy, I'm not talking about an IQ level or your level of education. Health literacy means the knowledge and being given the information. Because, like I said, when you have a breast cancer diagnosis, did you ever think you were going to have to be an expert on this? No. So that's health literacy. Providing the resources, providing community, providing support, providing groups, either locally, online groups that will help give this information to improve health literacy so that, women and men can have this conversation
Mm-hmm.
and optimize their health. Like you said, it is the nucleus.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the most important thing is, even when we're giving out this information, the most important thing is making sure that the person at the other end understands what you're telling them. That is communication.
Yes.
That's how the that is the, what should I say, the most important thing in health literacy is that when you're educating me, I should be able to understand what you're telling me, to be able to share. Many don't, that
Yes.
I've come across, don't really, and they're shy to even tell their doctors that they don't understand what the doctor said because they don't want to be found wanting or to be looked at as, like you said, somebody that has a very low IQ. So you find out
Mm-hmm.
that they won't ask the doctors or the nurses. They prefer to ask outsiders as to, this is what my doctor said. Could you please explain to me? And I'm like, why
Mm-hmm.
didn't you ask him or her? I'm not the doctor. So what I'm going to be telling you would be from my own perspective and not a medical one. Well, next time you go see them, ask the questions. Don't be shy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the patient voice is very important.
Very
Yeah,
important. And
yeah.
I think that patients need to not be afraid to look at their doctors and say, this, I don't understand what you're telling me. This doesn't make sense to me right now. Help me understand it a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Or give me some literature, give me some resource that I can use, whether it's an app, whether it's a website, whether it's, a hard copy of a study or information. Let me
Mm-hmm.
go home and absorb this a little bit. And can I circle back with you or your nurse when I fully understand it to be able to ask you the right questions so that it's what's right for me?
Yes, indeed,
Yeah.
Terry. You're so right. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, with your experience and, having been diagnosed with breast cancer twice, going through, you know, going down that trajectory until, your remission and you're thriving and everything. What is that one thing you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey that you didn't?
Ooh, that's a big question, Grace. I have to say honestly, I think what weighs upon my mind the most, and there's no playbook for this. You don't know. But I guess I would have wanted to know, or just to really understand how much it affects your tribe. I call it your tribe, whether it's your close family, your extended family. Caregivers are so impacted by this, and I think they're often
Mm,
overlooked.
mm,
Um, when you're diagnosed with breast cancer, you don't only take on your own feelings of fear, the what ifs, you also take on those of your caregiver. And how do you all together balance that out and get through this the best way you can? I think that sometimes caregivers don't always have the opportunity to share what the impact of cancer has been on them. They take on the role, they do their job, you know, and once you're better, all that dust is kind of left there and never really, sometimes not really addressed. And so I guess I would have wanted to know more about how this affects caregivers and how we can, take care of them, because I think as women who are diagnosed with breast cancer, especially, we are born natural caregivers and we take on that responsibility, and to turn that over to someone else is very difficult sometimes. So, yeah, that was tough for me, just to understand how it affects, like I said, I call it your tribe, the
Yes,
people that take
indeed.
care of you.
Because even in that
Mm.
state, in that condition we're in, we actually feel sorry for what they are going through on our behalf, So it's like, oh my God, look at me here, on the bed. I can't move. I can't do anything, why should this happen, So yeah, I can understand
Mhm.
that. I do understand
Yeah.
that. And I've been there. Yeah, been there.
Yes, you have. You have. Yeah.
That's awesome. Amazing information, Terri. Um, what did I want to say now? So, as regards your foundation now, what have you been able to establish, to support, men and women who have been diagnosed? What programs or events or whatever have you done or are you doing to be able to make sure that men and women facing breast cancer can learn and extract from you?
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for asking. And Grace, I have to tell you before I even say this, that this has evolved over time. You and I both know that when you step into this space, even though it's a sad and fearful event, you meet incredible people. I have met people who have supported me in ways that I never would have imagined. So, to answer your question and how this has evolved through support, I, I would say that my day-to-day support lies in my closed Facebook group. And it started out with a trickle. I opened it, a few people. And that was in 2016, I believe, 2015, maybe I opened the Facebook page. I don't remember now. It's called Deep Sea Journey, Breast Reconstruction After Mastectomy. We support all options, all choices of reconstruction or no reconstruction. It's grown to a global community of over 7,300 men and women. I tried to set myself apart in that group by allowing physicians and healthcare providers to be in that group
Mhm.
because I have established it as a community of learning. We learn from them, they learn from us, we can ask each other questions, they can look and see what is it that men and women are asking and concerned about. So there's the Facebook group. I have a public Facebook page where I share a lot of the YouTube videos. I also write a blog, which is really how I started out with the deepseajourney.com blog. And some people, they wonder
Mhm.
about that name. So the DEEP is the procedure I had, DIEP. C is the first initial of my last name. C has nothing to do with the ocean, but it's deep
Yeah.
sea, and then journey, because I just think life's a journey no matter what. What's been interesting, I have given, keynote addresses at medical conferences, sharing information with the medical profession. I also curate a YouTube channel. We started a podcast this year that I am focused on interviewing board certified surgeons, other healthcare providers that support breast cancer patients, and also patients themselves. So we can get kind of a full circle understanding of what people go through with breast cancer and the decision to or not to have breast reconstruction. So YouTube channel, podcast, the closed Facebook group, and then my outreach, through public speaking. And across social media channels, Grace,
And I believe
that
you're on
people use.
Pinterest as well.
Yes, yes. So, Grace, because you're so robust on social media as well, that not everybody uses every channel.
Mhm.
And so I've learned to appreciate, sometimes I get a message from a woman on Instagram. Sometimes I get a message from a woman on Facebook. Sometimes I'll get a message or a question from somebody on Twitter. It just kind of comes from all different social media channels. And so that's why I think it's important to utilize all of them and to share information, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, la. Social media. Social media
which
is
is
the connection.
impactful, which all your channels are doing pretty well, very well, in fact.
It is. It is. And
As
the other
regards
thing too, well, thank you. Uh, I only say your work is as good as the people you surround yourself with. So I feel fortunate. But the other thing too is I always like to tell people that we provide one-on-one support, because there are women, you can send a text, you can be in a support group, but some women just need to hear somebody's voice one-on-one. And so we provide that one-on-one support too. We help women and men find, really qualified surgeons, connect patients to patients, patients to surgeons. Yeah.
Yeah, like a peer-to-peer support thingy, because patients like
Mm-hmm.
to hear from what their, other patients of similar experiences are going through, and kind of compare notes as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. All the barriers are broken down when you start talking about breast cancer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's, that's your common thread that makes the
It's
conversation easy,
yes, indeed.
doesn't it?
As they say, icebreaker. Oh, really? You were cancer? Oh, wow. Okay, sister, brother. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if you've known each other a lifetime. Yes,
Yeah,
and
don't you find that to be the case,
I
Grace?
swear, all the time, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
like both of us. I feel as if I've known you forever.
I know. Easy
Yeah.
conversations.
Oh, bless. Okay, so
Yeah.
Terri, we're coming to the end of this beautiful, insightful discussion. But I'd like to ask you something. I'd like to ask you, with all that you do, how do you manage to stay grounded? What activities do you engage in?
Ooh,
I know
I,
you mentioned that you're a gym person, but there could be others.
yeah, I was my dad's middle child of three daughters, and I've always been kind of the athletic tomboy type. I still love going to the gym.
Me
I still
too.
love working. I can tell. I'm looking at your buff arms here, Grace. Um,
I've
it
been
it
lifting weights.
that yeah, it shows.
Does it
Keep doing
show?
it. It
Oh,
shows.
wow.
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
That really helps kind of disperse my energy. Let's put it that way. And it's a very good mental exercise for me as well. But my husband and I have taken on organic gardening the last 2 years. And I
Nice,
just
you.
went out today and picked fresh peas out of the garden. There's nothing, I don't know. I even tell breast cancer patients this: find something that really distracts you
Mm-hmm.
from your diagnosis and your treatment,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know, gardening, oh my gosh, it's like our zen place. We go out there and just
I
look at
know.
the vegetables and yeah, and eating your own food, what
Mm-hmm.
could be healthier? And of course, I have two grandchildren that
Oh,
they're a
bless.
lovely distraction for me.
Nice. That's great. Oh,
And
wow.
I'm a curious person, so I love to read and find out new things too. So
Mm.
that's, I think,
That
what balances my
that's
life.
awesome. When sorry, I'm going to have to take it back because something crossed my mind. Um,
Yeah.
just one thing. For
Hmm.
someone who has undergone a breast cancer surgery, now that we're talking about weights and exercise and everything, what advice would you give to that person who, wants to get back into whatever cycle they were in as regards
Mhm.
movement and exercise? What advice would you give to them? Because I find out that a lot of people are scared. When I started lifting weights, everybody was like, "Oh, you're gonna, tear something or whatever," but I took it a bit at a time. But from your point of view, what would you say to that person who's probably hesitant about going through that probably regime they once were at and starting all over again?
Well, first and foremost, absolutely first and foremost, get clearance from your surgeon or your oncology team first.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they say that you're good to go and to get back into exercise, I think you have to ease back into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yoga is a wonderful routine for breast cancer patients,
Mm-hmm.
whether you've had breast surgery or not. It's a very good balancing, centering type of exercise. So I believe that yoga is very effective. And learn to trust your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you said, Grace, you got back into weights. Your friends were tamping you down because they're protective.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we become protective of our own bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and we forgot that we can do certain things. And so ease back into it gradually, get to know what you can and can't do, and allow yourself time. Be patient with yourself. I just started working with a personal trainer. I've always hesitated to invest the money in doing that. And I finally realized it was an investment in my health. And this guy is spot on. He knows every muscle and he knows the type of surgery that I've had. And he, the reason I'm saying work with a personal trainer is so you don't get hurt.
Mm.
If you're working with a certified trainer like I am right now, and they know anatomy, they know physicality, they know, what you've been through, they're going to say, you know what? It's okay. We can push you a little bit. We're going to ease into this. They know the limitations, I think. Whereas you might just go back to the gym and go, okay, well, I was lifting this many weights before. I'll go do it again. And then you end up hurting yourself.
True.
So you got to give yourself patience, time, find someone who knows something about it who can help you too. Or watch a YouTube video. There's so many out there.
Mm-hmm.
Great YouTube videos.
Absolutely. So, what is that one thing that you would do to improve healthcare in the US? What would it be and why?
Holy cow, you ask great questions, Grace. I'm going to say it from my background.
Mm-hmm.
Educate, educate, educate. I would implement more education, not just for patients, but for physicians about communicating with patients. It's that whole shared decision-making model that
Wonderful.
the
Mm.
foundation is we are such big proponents of that at Deep Sea Foundation. And I think that educating uh, the way we can change healthcare is by educating about how we communicate with each other about healthcare.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
That's
That
that's
is
it.
that is it. Succinct. Exactly. Educate, educate, educate. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Terri. This has been such a pleasure and an honor to host you and to see your wonderful fresh face on our screen. Um, can't wait to be your guest too, So we're waiting on
Listen,
that.
yeah, we are going to get out that we're going to get that Deep Sea Journey podcast calendar out and get you scheduled. You
Yes.
are a lovely, impactful, and courageous woman. And I applaud you for what you're doing. Truly, Grace. Keep doing it. We need people like
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
We look at you too, and we get a lot of, positivity and light from you. So that also spurs us on, so
Thank you.
that is good. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise and insights and story and telling us all that you do with your foundation. I'm sure after this, episode, you're going to be bombarded by questions and, invites and everything. So wait for it. Just wait for it. Thank you so much,
Good.
Terri. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, then.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Before I conclude and sign you off, I would like to share a quote from Tony Robbins, who says, "Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is only potential power. Action is power." So, my dear audience and friends, there you have it. You've been listening to the amazing Terri Coutee. You've heard everything. You've extracted wisdom nuggets and all that. She has her resources about what to do post mastectomy, which I'm going to be putting on my show notes. And so, if you've not yet joined our community, please go to Cancer Convos with Grace B on Facebook, where you'll find a lot of information, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Cancer Convos with Grace B, and be part of the community so you can be updated on upcoming shows. So until the next episode, this is Grace B signing out, wishing you love and light. Ciao, ciao. Thank you so much, Terri. Wonderful to have you.
Thank you.